Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome aboard once more. Another afternoon game drive. We're up in the Masai Mara in Kenya and just sitting with a small group of banded mongoose. And what a lovely afternoon it is. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we've got Archie. Say hello, Archie. There we go. It's a lovely 79 degrees Fahrenheit, 28 degrees centigrade. It's a very sort of not too hot, not too cold afternoon, and there's a little bit of a breeze coming through, but you're watching Safari Live, and we're going to do our best to find all sorts of action with the wildlife this afternoon. Please join us on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. It would be great for you to send us your questions and your comments and get involved with us as we have a real life game drive. Okay, so we started with these banded mongoose, but it seems like they've dipped into their little den inside this termite mound, so I think we might be moving along down towards the swamp area in a little while, and we see if we can maybe find some kitty cats, and who knows, I'm sure there'll still be some elephant around like they were yesterday, but come along with me, let's go see what's around. So, and it was a little bit of an iffy morning with all the gremlins that we had, especially here on the Kenyan Mara side, but it seems that it won't be a problem this afternoon. I had a little inside word with the tech guys, and they said it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So let's hold thumbs. Let's hope that it's all going to go well. But I'm hoping for some predators. I think the lions might be out a little bit more because it's not too hot. So my plan is, as I've said, heading towards the swampy marsh areas. And yeah, it's all going to be a surprise because I haven't seen what has been hanging around there this morning. So we'll have to have a look now. Right, without further ado, let's send you over to Taylor, who can show you what she's up to.
Driving through the vast open plains of nothing at the moment, Ralph. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sunset Safari, and we're already on the go, as you can see. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Manu, the birthday boy, 28, in case you forgot or you missed the Sunrise Safari. It's Manu's 28th birthday today, very exciting. So if you would like to talk to Manu or send him a special request, you're welcome to. You can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Now, Manu and I have decided to take a similar route that we took this morning, and the reason why is because we really want to find this female leopard that we had tracks of around the Mara River, quite well in the area of Little Governors, and see if we can find her. I mean, there's only a small section of the river line that we can actually check and follow a road. The rest of it, unfortunately, there's no road heading in that direction. So that's where we're going to go, and I assume because it's been such a hot day, we're probably going to see some things in the wallows. But there's one of my favorite animals running away at the moment. Typical. It's normally how you see them, is with their backsides towards you and their tails up in the air. I suppose that could be either the zebra or the warthog that I'm talking about. I am talking about the warthog, as you can see, as the youngsters squat. It's a very compromising position, but they're growing up quickly, don't you think? Now, Mia, you've asked if you can see the jackal pups today. I don't know if they're going to be around. You'll have to ask the jackals very nicely. Unfortunately, the animals do what they like, when they want. So we can maybe pop past there a little bit later. It's not quite on our way at the moment. I'm not going to change my route right now, but we'll see if we get there a little bit later this afternoon. But yeah, there's a couple of animals out. It's very windy. It's been gusting since this morning, since last night and the day before, in fact. The weather hasn't been particularly pleasant, but what the wind has done is kept the rain away, which is interesting because it's also incredible to see how dry the Mara gets. It sort of dries out at such a rapid rate. But let's go down to the river. Maybe we'll get some elephants and hippos frolicking about in the water, or perhaps a leopard. Lajeesh, you're wondering how Manu's day is going so far? Manu, you can answer that. You're a big boy. I don't actually know if he could hear what Manu said, and I don't know if I should repeat it. But he says that he's saving his energy for the night. No, you know, this is live, this is unscripted, this is Safari Live. No party would be a real Safari Live party or birthday without a party. So we are having pizzas tonight in celebration of Manu's birthday. Best homemade pizzas in Kenya, I tell you. They're going to be so good. Manu, what are you going to put on your pizza? Chicken and just avocado, that's it. Manu's an avocado man. He eats avocado with everything that you can think of. He will eat it with avo. Can be having ice cream, there will be avo on the side. Sometimes he mixes a little bit in. Anyways, we're going to head down to the river and hopefully find some animals with trunks and perhaps a couple with some sharp teeth. I'm going to send you back across to Ralph.
Yes, thank you, Taylor. And well, those animals with trunks are definitely not going to be missed today. We've got a lot of them down on the marshland once more. So I think without further ado, we're going to head up to them and see what the elephants are up to. And from there we'll do a little bit of spotting around, see if we spot any lions, and watch a bit of elephant behavior. I think that's not a bad call. Can you ever have enough of that? I don't know. I can't, and I've been doing this for a little while, and it's still totally amazing for me every time I go to see elephants. I don't know about everybody else, but I can't get enough of them. Especially with the amounts of elephants that we have here at the moment. There's big and small and all the different ages, and there's a little bit of argy-bargy, and it's just fun to watch. So let's find our little pathway that goes down there, and from there then we can scan the periphery and see if we see any of those tawny colored kitty cats. Everybody's still very tranquil walking through the marshy plains, and it's very different to, well, it's quite strange for me to see the amount of greenery here. So Sherry from Rhode Island, you'd like me to take you to the Ellies? Well, Sherry, here we go. They're just down this little two-track. There's lots of them there, and the ever-present egrets are dotting the grass below their feet. So let's go see what they're up to. Lots of fresh dung around. If you had to close your eyes, you'd be able to smell them anyway without being able to see them. Elephants do have a very particular smell. And their dung, once dried, you can actually use it like incense, and I'm not joking. It's in the dry parts where we have a lot of flies, or if you're camping, take dry elephant dung and light it and just let it smolder. It smells a lot like incense, and it's a good insect repellent. It's a nice little natural insect repellent, elephant dung. Look at these two youngsters here, having a little bit of a, how's your father? A lovely setting once more. You can see a couple of youngsters. Just testing each other, playing a little bit, pushing, wrestling. Of crickets calling, that's almost all we can hear at the moment, and you'd think with such big animals around there'd be a lot of noise, but elephants can very easily walk within 5 meters of you and you hardly hear them. Even with these two having this little wrestling match here, there's almost no sound.
Are these male elephants play fighting? Question, Brad?
Brad, you're asking, are these male elephants here that are just pushing each other around? Yes, it looks like two males. I'll have a look a little bit closer, but it's generally the shape of them and the way that they're playing. It looks like two males for sure. Let me have a closer look. Yeah, it's two males. And very often, folks, I mean, you see it as well with dogs at home. When, you know, people often think, or they get embarrassed, when one of their dogs is mounting another dog. You often see it in the wild as well. You see it with hyena, you see it with elephant, you see it with a number of animals. When two males are mounting each other, it's not literally a sexual act. It's more so just a dominance display. And it's just normally one trying to dominate the other. That's it. It's nothing untoward. And you see here, this is what I'm talking about. It's quite sexual looking, but it's very much a dominance display. Look at that, eh? And then the youngster, the one that's a little bit smaller, obviously still trying to get a little bit back on him. Aaron, you're wondering if I've spent any time with the forest elephants in Gabon. Unfortunately, Aaron, I haven't been able to get up that far in Africa as of yet. So the only elephants I've spent time with are the African elephants, and you might have heard I speak quite a lot about the desert elephants of Namibia, and I've also spent time with the elephants in the Addo Elephant National Park. So I've spent time with them in many different areas of southern Africa, Botswana and Zimbabwe, Mozambique even, but they're all the same species that I've been with. I haven't seen the Indian elephant or the forest elephant. I've seen them in zoos, but when I see that, I don't say that counts because it's not in the wild. But yes, I have seen one, but just in zoos and in confinement. But this is a lovely interaction with these two males. Bunny, you're wondering if female elephants ever play like the males? A little bit, but it doesn't quite go as far as it does with the boys. And it's quite, the boys really push the limits, and the girls are a little bit more serious and more concerned with the babies and the youngsters. And so they do play with the babies a little bit and amongst themselves, but it's more the boys that do this full-on wrestling type play. Fabulous little scene this with these two young males, eh? Brent, you're wondering if elephants can ever lose an eye from fighting like this? Yes, absolutely. I mean, it just takes one wrong move and that tusk can penetrate an eye. I haven't seen it, however, many times. I've seen some injuries from play fighting, but they generally know when to stop, and if they don't, you'll either have one of the big bulls coming and sorting them out, but generally it would be a matriarch, one of the bigger females within the group of the herd of elephants would normally put them in their place. And once they won't be put in their place, if I can put it like that, the females literally push them out the herd. So that's when it gets to the point of them being left behind and not welcome within the herd, and that's when they could then go off on their own, form a small group of males, or they join up with a much older bull, and they just wander really, until they start coming into must, and then that drives them back to the herd looking for a mate. Fabulous little encounter here with these two youngsters. They're within about 15 meters from us now. Right, so while we watch this fabulous little scene unfolding here, I think let's head over to Taylor and find out a little bit more about where she's been and what she's been up to.
Still with our plan about trying to find this leopard. Now, this is where we lost the tracks this morning. They went pretty much along the edge of the river up onto the next sort of rise and then all the way down to the left, down that side. So I don't blame her though. I'm sure she has a nice animal pathway to walk along, which will make it quite easy because it does get quite thick in there. Or perhaps she's just laying about quite close by, just in the shade. It would also form some really nice, cool, cozy spots to rest in, especially to try and keep away from the insects. And actually just in front of me there's some midges that are swarming. I don't know if you can see them, the shrub straight ahead. Oh, sorry, they're all over there. There are so many midges. They've formed, I think a little bit. Oh no, you got it. Can you see them? Oh, it's so tough. There, you got to look very carefully. It looks like fine dust, but those are all little biting midges, and that is where I'm not going to go because I don't want to get bitten by them. I know how painful their bite is, and I wouldn't imagine any of the animals out here would want to be bitten by them too. So a hiding spot in the nice cool shade would be fantastic for a leopard to lay in. Oh, it's a pity. It would have been nice to have seen a spotted cat. We definitely have to come past here though in the evenings and maybe at sunset and do a little drive through and keep checking over the next few weeks. We're bound to come across her. But anyways, we'll keep searching. No luck here, but that's alright. There's still plenty of other sections to check. Let's go across to Rolf and see if he's found his lions yet.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, I pretty much haven't moved from these elephants. The young little males thought they'd come over and say hello to us. So we sat with them and they were sniffing us from a few meters away, and now they tried to intimidate me, but we just sat quietly and didn't move anywhere, and so they realized that the game was up and they've turned around and walked off. But now we see some little babies. Who could resist watching elephant babies? They just keep you entertained for hours on end. So I thought we'd maybe do a little bit of that before we go looking for the kitty cats. Those egrets also foraging in the background there. They're looking for animal protein as opposed to vegetable protein, as the elephants are. Sorry if there's a little bit of shaking going on. Every now and then Archie and I, we're just trying to swat flies because we're getting a little bit irritated by them. So just so that you know, if you do see a bump, it's just because we're getting swamped by flies here a little bit. Now, Kimura, you're wondering what an African elephant would do or how it would react to an Indian elephant. I'm pretty sure that they'd be curious of each other because they are very intelligent animals. However, the African elephant, I do believe their temperament is slightly more aggressive than an Indian elephant. There has been cases of extreme aggression with Indian elephants, but the size and the temperament of an African elephant, I think there might be a little bit of dominating going on initially, and then I think especially if they'd been solitary for a little while or whatever and being introduced to another elephant, I think they'd get along quite nicely. I don't see why not. But the Indian elephant, a slightly smaller frame than an African elephant, and there's a lot to be said as well from the training of elephants. And there's been a big split between the Indian and the African elephant. Obviously, they do exist on different continents, but the Indians have spent many centuries in perfecting the art of training elephants and using them for manual labor, such as logging and transport, etc. But the African elephant has never been utilized in such way. It is a very new thing that they've started with training African elephants, but traditionally and culturally it was never something that was done in Africa. Elephants were always considered either a pest or just another wild animal. So the local people didn't utilize them or train them in any way, whereas with the Indians, they've been doing it for centuries. So there's a much more intermingling of humans and elephants in India. And the African elephant, they have done some elephant back safaris in sort of southern Africa that I know of. I'm not sure about other areas in Africa, but it's quite a difficult training, because obviously you must imagine the strength of an elephant, and unless the person who is in control of that animal is its master, the potential for that animal to kill anybody at any time is very real. So the problem being with training elephants is that you need to break their spirit, and so it needs to be done from a reasonably young age, and it is not in my opinion, an acceptable form of training an animal, because it does push the boundaries in terms of cruelty. And so they have revoked the trade or the movement or the licensing of elephant back safaris. They're not issuing any more new licenses, and it is because of this actual training technique that was born in India and perfected there, but the reason now it's really a problem here is because these elephants have never been trained, and so they actually take a lot more training than the ones in India, because they're almost bred now with that in mind, that their forefathers and everybody has been doing it for so long, so they are much easier trained. And the elephants here need to be broken a lot more, if that makes sense. So a little bit cruel, and so we don't condone the elephant back safaris, and they have closed them and no more new licenses. I don't agree with them. Now, Philip, you're asking the question, were African elephants ever used in war? Well, not quite. It's not quite like in, what is it, The Lord of the Rings, where all of the guys are on top of the elephant. And I think that actually looked like an Indian elephant anyway. I might be wrong, but no, they're not trainable enough, and I mean, especially with loud gunfire or anything like that, there would be chaos. So I wouldn't say that elephants are trainable in any way to be able to help humans, and this is the African elephant I'm talking about, because it's going to take those centuries that the Indians have put in for them to be trained enough, to be able to submit and to be controlled and to listen to commands, etc. So yeah, it's a difficult topic, and I know that might open a can of worms of debate around this elephant back safaris, but hey, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Debates are good, and I'm very happy that they've stopped the licensing of elephant elephant back safaris. I don't think that that's the way that we want to be moving. However, is difficult when you talk conservation, and sometimes we do have too many elephants, and what is better, culling or putting them into zoos and farms and elephant back safaris. I don't know. For me, I wouldn't want to be doing the elephant back safaris. Anyway, Sinak, you're wondering, what are those cattle egret attracted to? They are being attracted just to the movement of the elephants, because as they move along, they bump out insects that would ordinarily just be hiding in the grass. So as this massive animal comes along, the insects fly out so that they don't get squashed underneath their feet, and the egrets are then waiting to catch them. So the insects go from the frying pan into the fire, and they get away from the elephants, only to be eaten by an egret. Now, it was interesting, that question, would elephants be used in war? Because there are instances where animals have been, or people have attempted to use wild animals in war, and one of them, I know it's not what we're watching, but zebra they tried to use zebra as horses at some stage in Rhodesia, or now called Zimbabwe. They had I think it was a rinderpest outbreak with the horses in the early 1800s, and they wiped out all of their horses. So the horsey part of their army was now broken down. So the guys got together and they thought, would they be able to corral and catch and train zebra? So they went about catching them, but the training part was a little bit more difficult than they imagined. And they tried to get them to work together and pull in the same direction, and that was, they could get the zebra to do everything but pull in the same direction, because everyone just wanted to pull its own way, and they were useless. It was a total disaster, and they put it down to the fact once more that horses have been through the centuries trained, and now are at the state that we find them. And zebra, I'm sure they are trainable, but it would take for a long amount of that training to come through and eventually be able to be actually usable by us as humans. So the end result was that they had to get in a new shipment of horses, and they had to leave the whole project with the zebras. It was a total flop. So anybody else wondering about animals being used? Send in your questions. And I think I might move a little bit shortly just to get a different perspective and see if we can find any lions. But while I do that, let's send you over to Taylor, who is driving around.
We are driving, but we are driving with purpose this afternoon. We are heading towards where we had those lions this morning. I just hope I can find them again. We're going to try. Let me just see quickly. I think we need to take one of these other roads rather, not this one here. I'm just trying to get the bearings in my head as to where I saw them heading towards, because I think they moved quite far off a road. But they were moving those young cubs, and we know that lionesses typically move their very young cubs like that during the middle of the day, when the other predators should be sleeping and resting. Lots of flies today. So they were down over there in that distance where that tree line is, so that's where we need to get to. Matt, you're wondering if I've ever run out of fuel? No, run out of fuel on a game drive? No, I can't say that I have run out of fuel. Been stuck a few times though, that's for sure. That I can tease Brent for. Brent gives me all sorts of gears about getting stuck all the time, but he's run out of fuel I don't know how many times on a safari. So, you know, I kind of think that running out of fuel is probably worse than getting stuck. Hey Manu? Because you should be checking that gauge, Mr. Leo Smith. Some of these most of these vehicles, their gauges don't work, but you sort of get an understanding of how many kilometers your vehicle does. Maybe I'll just start teasing him about that. The amount of times that I'd read on the work groups where Brent has been trapped and someone has had to come and rescue him with jerry cans. That's my favorite. I actually forgot about those because they happened such a long time ago. But yes, but fuel, you can actually quite easily run out of fuel in the Mara. I don't know how many times we've had a few close calls, we've had a fuel crisis and no one's been able to get fuel in from anywhere, and then you're pretty much driving on fumes. So then you can. That of course happens regularly. Then we're doing drives on the airstrip, making do with what we can, with what we have, sorry. So yeah, I just have a feeling that this road isn't going to go where I want it to go, unfortunately. But maybe these cats have actually moved even more. Let's see. I think this road actually bends around and goes that way. Oh my goodness. Emma, let me tell you how many flies and bugs I've swallowed on a safari. Many of them live, most of them live. Where I think Jamie's done the same thing, where you see us the most unladylike, where we're spitting over the side of the car because we've just swallowed a fly, choking. So yeah, so we swallow many. Now that I say that, I'm going to stop opening my mouth so wide while I talk because I know what's going to happen. They either get into my eyes or my mouth, one of the two. Lately it's been in my eyes, which I don't like either. I mean, I'd prefer to not have flies in my mouth or my nose or my eyes or anywhere. So I'm just checking in the shade because I'm pretty sure we left them going in this direction. We might go around onto the main road and see if they can carry on walking further. The worst is when the dung beetles are flying and they hit you on the forehead. That's sore. That's not pleasant. There's some big species of dung beetle out there too. Just about knock you out. It's dangerous. We need to wear hard hats and safety goggles, snorkels, so that we don't get the insects in our mouths, you know. That's we're going to have to dress up like we're going scuba diving. That or the wetsuit will protect us from the sun. Maybe we're wearing the wrong outfits for safari, hey, Manu? Perhaps we should be in wetsuits. No, that would be exceptionally warm. Can you imagine? It'd be like sitting in a sauna all day long. Okay, so our lions have moved from where they supposedly were, or where we left them. And when we were with the jackals, I could see their ears under the trees. Now Guide Monkey, I'm wondering if there is a bug protection solution for us guides. It's just part of the job, I suppose. It's one of those things, unless I perhaps get into a bee, you know, sort of a beekeeper's suit. That would work as well. That would help me with everything. So, I mean, I have a natural bug spray, which I spray on my legs every now and then. And when the flies bite me, not that I think it actually does much at all. It does keep the mosquitoes away, though, that's, I will say. Otherwise, we just go like properly all natural, and we use a guarri branch and we swat around. That's fun. And then also, I like to burn elephant dung. That's a goodie. When it's dry, we don't see much dry elephant dung out in the Mara, though. But in the Sabi sand, there's plenty, and that works as a really good insect repellent. So yeah, it's just one of those things. It's part of the territory, I suppose. You come into this industry knowing that you're going to swallow a few more bugs than you like, or get them in your eyes. The most important thing, though, out of all that is protecting your eyes from the sun. That's probably the worst thing. So I make sure I always have my sunglasses, polarized of course, handy. I try and wear them in between segments as much as I can, because otherwise your eyes just deteriorate too quickly. So yeah, so we're going to keep bumbling through. I'm going to keep checking these shady spots. I have a feeling they're just laying in this forest somewhere, so we'll go round and round. Ralph, however, has probably got some, well, not survival stories, but some bug stories of his own.
Thanks, Taylor. Yes, and still driving around. We're just repositioning, going to get closer to these elephants here. And yeah, I've got a little story about swallowing bugs. I was training some trails rangers on a game reserve actually that Taylor has actually worked at, Kruger Game Reserve in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. And You know, we go through a whole process with trails rangers. Obviously, it's quite important that you're very quiet when you're in the field and you look where you walk, and you know, especially if you get close to a potentially dangerous animal, and some are more potentially dangerous than others. For instance, black rhino, especially in close proximity to black rhino on foot, you need to be quite careful. So the one day it was quite long into the course, so the students were being allowed to walk in charge of the group, so the first rifle and the backup guide, and so I was walking at the back, and we got into a very close encounter with the black rhino. But at that moment, the black rhino didn't realize that we were there, and we got out of there without the black rhino even knowing that we had been in its presence. But literally about 30 meters up the road, as we were still all sneaking away from this black rhino, and I was right at the back, just making sure that if the black rhino had smelt us and maybe come up behind us, that I was sort of reasonably in charge of the group, even though I was at the back. You know, if an animal comes from behind, then you're in the front. But as we were walking away, we were going up quite an incline, and we were breathing quite heavily, but still trying to be quiet, and with my mouth open I had a fly or an insect, whatever it was, fly right into the back of my throat, and it just immediately made my gag reflex come to the fore, and I made a lot of noise, and it sounded like I was busy dying. But we were just right near to this black rhino, and all the students stopped, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I was nearly throwing up, nearly vomiting right there, and I couldn't help it. I mean, I've got a strong stomach, but to have an insect fly right into the back of your throat, it was just an instant gag reflex. And once we were about a kilometer away, it was very funny, but in the time it was actually quite scary because of our proximity to the black rhino. Anyway, there's my one little story, Taylor, of my swallowing of an insect. Tony, you're wondering if that's the biggest bug that ever tried to fly into my mouth. No, I've had a few insects fly into my mouth, but that one flew the deepest, and yes, there was no chance of getting rid of it. It went right down my throat, and I had absolutely no chance. So another story. Why don't we just stop here and look at some of these waterbuck while we're at it? But another story that I've got, speaking of insects, even though we are looking at waterbuck, in the Kruger Park area of South Africa, and it would probably be starting around now, you get a lot of these golden orb web spiders, which some of them they can end up being about as big as my hand, and they make huge nests, normally across the road. So anybody that's sitting in the tracker seat in the times when these spiders start making their webs, which is normally just after the rains and in summer, they're only summer active, you don't get them in winter, they are quite scary. So the one day, once again with students in the Kruger Park area, we were driving with one of the students on the tracker seat, and there was a lot of these webs, and so he had a stick with him, and he was breaking the webs as we go along, as opposed to having them collect on his head. And we were driving through a few of them, and we went down a couple of roads that nobody had driven for quite a while, and next minute he turned around and he had one of these golden orb webs spiders right across his face. It was rather scary. Yeah, I think everybody on the vehicle landed up being scared, and shame the guy on the tracker seat, he was ultimately scared. Yeah, so anyway, needless to say, he didn't want to sit on the tracker seat anymore after that, and he came and sat in the back with us. Anyway, lovely setting here. Mia, you're asking a good question. Why are waterbuck called waterbuck? It is because of their habit of being near to water. However, it is a little bit, the name isn't as great as I would think, because Sitatunga and Lechwe, which you find in, for instance, the Okavango Delta and in marshy, permanent marshy areas around Africa, they're much more of waterbuck than waterbuck are, because waterbuck do spend reasonable amounts of time away from water. They do like these little marshy areas and so on, but Lechwe and Sutatunga, for me, would be, either one of them being called waterbuck would actually be more apt. So, yes, that is a good question, but that's the reason, and they're quite adapted to being around water, but yeah. So the three of them, Lechwe, Sitatunga, Waterbuck, they are all associated with water, but Lechwe and Sitatunga more so than Waterbuck. And they've got specific glands within their skin that do make their skin very oily, and it does assist with keeping their skin nicely oiled and not getting dry around water. You can see they're slightly different to the waterbuck that we get down in South Africa and Southern Africa. They don't have that ring on their bum, the toilet seat. And these have just got a very white bum. It's not a ring. The Defasa waterbuck. So slightly different to the ones that we get, but very similar size. And the one other difference I see is that they're a little bit darker, and so the waterbuck down our side, they're a little bit more grey, whereas these are a little bit more sort of brown and black. And the male's horns here don't seem to get as big as the normal waterbuck. The Defasa waterbuck horns are quite a bit smaller. Now, Sinak, you're wondering when is the waterbuck's mating season? The exact time for them to be mating, I'm just checking, because they also drop the young at sort of the similar time to that of impala, normally just after impala. So their gestation period is at about 9 months, so it's quite an extended period for antelope. So then that would mean that January, February, March, it's around April, May that the actual mating season would take place, because then they would be dropping normally around sort of between January, March once again. So it's not a complete sequence like you get with impala. Having said that, here in the Mara, it seems because of the resources being more readily available, they do give birth more randomly and almost throughout the year. So it's in areas where you get more of a very set rainy season that you would then start to get a real rutting season and a breeding season. So that's where, but where here in Kenya and the Masai Mara, it seems that things sort of become a little bit more general, a little bit more spaced out, because of there being a constant availability of resources. So I think it does center around that. Normally waterbuck do have that sort of set time of year, but I would suggest that here in the Mara, with similar to that of the impala, where they start to drop a little bit more randomly. If that answers your question. Now, Shmama, you're wondering if the oil that I'm talking about is the one that smells like a sink drain. Well, I've never smelt them smelling like a sink drain, but everybody's nose is different, and just to vouch for that, there's only certain people that can smell the brown hyena anal pasting, but it's for the people that can, it really stinks. Now, I can smell it, and I don't understand how people can't, because it's such a pungent, strong smell. Now, the smell that I've smelt with waterbuck it is a musty smell, but I would liken it more to not really rotten feet, but just sweaty socks, if that makes sense. Sweaty socks that after you've been for a run, not socks that you've worn for a week, socks that you've just worn for one day, but you've done a lot of exercise in. All right, so that's how it smells for me. But yes, that is the oil that is produced, and it does have quite a strong pungent smell to it. But sink drain, I don't know. But that definitely depends on the person smelling it. Alright, folks, I'm going to still continue a little bit around this marshy area, still watching these elephants and seeing if we can spot any lions. But while I'm doing that and repositioning, let's head you over to Taylor, who I think is also still looking around.
We are still looking around. I can't find my lions, unfortunately. I'm not exactly sure where they have gone. I think they must have just gone further and further into the forest for a bit of shade. I don't blame them. It's not particularly nice in terms of sun. It's quite hot, and then of course the wind is very annoying. I don't think anybody enjoys the wind too much. We know how nervous the herbivores get. These roads are horrific as well. They're so bumpy. So we're just sort of bumbling and just checking in these croton thickets for any animals. Now, Brad, you're wondering if we get any alien tree species in the Mara? Of course we do, which is very sad to say. There's quite a bit of Lantana Camara up at camp, which is from South America. That's not good, and it's also quite toxic if the animals eat it. And what else do we have? Lots of prickly pear out here. There's plenty of that. There's the jumping jacks. They're everywhere. They're always in my socks and my clothes. They were in Manu's pants this morning, I noticed, all the way down his leg, obviously from walking from his room to the car. And yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few more other species. They've just all just vanished off the top of my head, which is typical. But yeah, so there's plenty of plants that shouldn't be here, unfortunately. Where we got it? Ah, there we go. Well spotted, Manu. Manu's standing up and he can see over the tall grass. He's just seen a black rhino. 2 black rhino, Manu, not just one. Just going to go up a little bit further ahead. I wonder if these are the ones we saw this morning. Okay, let's quickly go up towards these rhinoceros. Almost there, we'll get a nice spot now. Oh my goodness, I can't take my eyes off the road, it's so bumpy. 3 black rhino. Now, Gerald, who is a new viewer, you were asking about that massive hill in the distance and you're wondering if it has a name. It most certainly does. That is the Olololo Escarpment that you can see. And this is an area where there are lots and lots of black rhino that hang around, which is really quite nice. We've been very lucky over the last few days with the amount that we've seen. I mean, this morning we saw 2, and now we've actually got 3. And now that I think where we are, we're quite far away from where we've seen both of our rhinos this morning, so I don't know if they're the same ones. They could be different ones. These ones have definitely been wallowing around in the mud. So I think that could be a male. It's a bit hard to tell from here. But the other one is definitely a female with a sub-adult. You can see not quite fully grown just yet. Still sticking around and with mom. There's an oxpecker too. Just sitting between its ears. Or on its horns, actually. Oh, you can see how windy it is as well, with all the grass blowing about. Now, Richard, you're wondering if rhinos are generally intelligent animals. I think to a point, yes. I mean, I haven't really seen rhinos problem solving like what we see with honey badgers and mongoose and hyenas, even elephants and lions. Obviously, when they hunt, they work together as a team, so that takes a bit of intelligence. So I don't know if they're quite up to that standard. But I don't think that they're particularly lacking in terms of brain cells. I think they're perfect for what they need to do. I mean, they look like prehistoric animals and they haven't really changed much in their design for a very, very long time. And it's obviously working for them. So why change something if it isn't broken? And I think that's exactly what's happened here. One thing that they could have improved on, though, is their eyesight. I think they would have enjoyed that. I didn't think the rhinos would be such jumpy creatures then. Well, not that they relax very quickly around vehicles and things like that, but on windy days you definitely do see a change and you do see them panic slightly. And that's just unfortunately they don't have the greatest eyesight out here. And without that, you can imagine, I think they do panic slightly. Now, Cassie, are you wondering if I've ever seen a rhino do damage to something with that horn? I've seen rhinos fighting before, and the cuts that they can cause on one another with white rhino bulls. And then I've seen a black rhino and a white rhino fighting, and the white rhino also left a few scratches on the black rhino. Well, I suppose the black rhino also fought back with his sword. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of videos going around the internet of rhinos hitting cars. Fortunately, I've never experienced anything like that, and I don't know anybody that's been hit by a rhino before, but I'm sure that horn would go straight through the car, no problem. So we'd rather keep those statistics that way, well, in my books anyways. But yeah, they can do some serious damage. There's even video footage of rhinos, picking up and throwing other animals with that horn. So they're exceptionally powerful. I mean, if you think about a black rhino, they can weigh up to about 1.82 tons at a push. Imagine that charging at full speed and then hitting you with a very sharp point as well. Wouldn't be too pleasant. Not quite enough, I think, to roll a car, but definitely lift it up, though. It's quite nice, though, to see that one rhino is so relaxed it has decided to sit down and go to sleep. Perhaps it doesn't even know that we're here. But Rolf has had a trend over the last few days. He's been spending the time with the elephants. Let's go and see if they're going to entertain him this time.
Yes, Taylor, well, like I said earlier, I can't get enough of elephants. Especially when you've got little youngsters like this around. They're really cute, they're really full of beans, and they're always having fun. Not really that much to worry about, except where they're going to get their next meal from, and that's normally just hanging near to Mum. And we've got a couple of little youngsters here. And believe it or not, we have spotted a lion off in the distance. So I will be making my way towards that one animal that we saw. Maybe there's more, but we just stopped on our way through with these few elephants, watching them graze. This one's got a broken tusk. It's not necessarily that they've broken it through fighting or whatever. Sometimes when they have a lack of calcium in their diet, their tusks can become brittle, and so much so to the point that in some areas of Botswana there's very little calcium available, and they have very short tusks, and you can find pieces of ivory all around in the bush. But you need to be careful because it's illegal to possess it. So even if you'd like to take a piece as a curio, it is illegal. So I remember picking up a piece, and a local said to me, "Hey, Wena, you need to be careful." And I said, "Why?" He said, "The police will catch you. You're not allowed to have ivory." And he was quite right. So I dropped it on the spot, and I left it there. Now, Richard, you're wondering if it hurts them if a piece of their or one of their tusks breaks. No, not particularly. It's pretty much like if you chip one of your teeth. So it can hurt when it actually happens, but the actual chipping of the tooth or the tusk is painless. It's a little bit like cutting your nails, but I mean, tusks are modified teeth, so it makes more sense to compare them to chipped teeth, I would say. But it's quite normal to see one tusk shorter than the other, and you can actually also work out whether an elephant is left or right-handed. Now, it's not actually handed that we talk about with elephants, but left or right tusked, because they will favor one of the tusks, and that's generally to do with when they are trying to break off bark on a tree, or if they are trying to loosen soil so that they can eat it. That's called, if anybody knows the term, geophagia, the eating of soil, and they'll do that in specific places where there's potentially mineral salts in the soil or calcium. You'll see animals, especially elephants, go and dig with their tusks into the side of a river bank or wherever the mineral salts are obtainable, and then they will pick it up with their trunk and eat it. There's a few other animals that will do that as well. I've seen baboons doing it. I've seen giraffe doing it. And I'd have to think of other ones that do it, but the term of eating soil being geophagia. Phagia meaning the eating of, and geo meaning soil or earth. Francis from Israel, you're wondering why I always say drop as opposed to giving birth. Francis, I'm not quite sure. That's just one of those terms that I use that more than giving birth, because maybe we speak about it as conservationists and wildlife safari guides and so on, because if you've ever witnessed an animal being born in the bush, there generally is quite a drop. So maybe that's where it originated from. I mean, elephants, there is a bit of a thud when they drop, similar with giraffe. And when human children are born in the hospital, the doctor does give them that sort of slap on their back to make them take their first breath. And I do believe that is the part of the natural slap on the back to get that first breath of life into the youngster and get it to take that first breath of oxygen. It's that bit of a thud that it has in once it gets dropped. So yeah, but I think coming back to just the pure and simple English language, there might be lots of terms that I use just from being in the presence of a lot of conservationists and guides, and maybe it's a little bit of slang that we use, but I'm not an English teacher and I'm not perfect in English. I do, however, speak 4 languages, so I mix it up sometimes, but yes, I'm not saying that I'm correct. I would just say that we do quite often use the term dropped or drop when they drop their young, because it literally is quite a drop. Okay, I think it's time to move on to this lion. He's around on the other side of this marshy area, so it's going to take us a little bit of time to get there. So who knows what we might spot along the way. See this little river system in front? It sort of drains into this marshy flats, and I can imagine after a lot of rain it would be very wet here. So there's lots of driving around going on today. I hope that Taylor and I can actually find some very interesting wildlife action. And having said that, let's go over to Taylor and see what she has been able to find.
Grass, lots and lots of grass. That's all that's around at the moment, I'm afraid. We did have lions at the beginning of Game Drive, but they were about 500 kilometers off the road. That couldn't even see them, barely, and there were no roads close by, and we're in a non-off-roading area, so that's a fail. So that's our 2 prides of lions gone, unfortunately. We're going to have to move out of this area and maybe down that way to see what lions we can find, but I'm not really going to hold my breath today. With regards to finding big cats, I'm just going to drive and, well, we'll go on a bumble, and what if there are any animals around. Let's go this way. Well, then they're around. If not, it's going to be a quiet drive then, isn't it? Very exciting. Everybody keeps asking me about the ostrich nest, and Shimami are one of them. I don't know where it is. I have no idea where this ostrich nest is that everybody keeps talking about. So I cannot answer your question. I'm afraid about if it's too far away to go and check on. I don't know where it is. So until I can find out where it is, and Brent is on holiday at the moment, I highly doubt he wants to talk about work while he's enjoying the beaches of Watamu. I can tell you right now, you would not be wanting to think about work when you're on the white sand and clear water and it's so warm and all the tropical fish. So we'll have to just wait till Brenty gets back, and I'm sure he'd be thrilled to take you down there. But yeah, the triangle does this though. Sometimes you get lucky and it's so amazing and so busy, and it's great during the migration, but now it tends to get a bit quiet and not so great with the tall grass. We're having to come into the non-off-roading areas where the animals are sort of gathering now, which doesn't really help us, because if they're too far off the road and they're sitting in the grass, then you view them like the black rhino shark that we saw this morning. You see its horn and see it sticking up. So I think we're gonna go. I'm just trying to think in my head quickly. I'm not sure where Ralph is gonna go from where he is now. We might go down that way. I don't know. Maybe check the river? Now, Ed, you were wondering about a lot of this grass that's growing here, and you're wondering if it has the same consistency as wheat. No, not quite. Not quite there. A lot of it is, well, there's a variety of different, there's this red oat grass, which was maybe similar, but not quite the same. I don't know if you can actually use these and make like and make rolled oats with the oat grass. Possibly. You can do that with the jungle grass, which is quite cool. We see a lot of. You can make a porridge, and in Zambia they used to make a porridge from the grass seeds, but I'm not so sure. And there's lots of thatching grass as well. I'm pretty sure yesterday or the day before I saw some turpentine grass growing around too, so there's so many different species that are popping up over here. It would be nice if we could get the animals to cooperate and sort of do nice grazing here, shorten it, then just move on to the next patch. They're not taking it down enough, not quite like the wildebeest do. Wildebeest is so good. And even the herds of buffalo have got smaller and few and far between. It was amazing to see right after the wildebeest left how many elephants and buffalo were around. I think they were quite excited to see the crowds move off. But now they've also started to disappear, and I have no idea where they've gone. I mean, the elephants, most of the elephants are in the marsh, and they will be there for a long time. I don't know how to answer this one. James, you're wondering what music I think buffalo would like to listen to. I don't know. I feel like they like heavy metal just because they look angry all the time. But I'm not really sure. Oh, Ralph was singing a song. What was he singing? That dollar song. You know which one I'm talking about. How does it go again? I'm trying to get the tune in my head. I'm not sure. Hey? I also can't remember it now, so I can't sing it. But we can ask Ralph to sing the dollar song, and then I think that's the type of tune that a buffalo would be singing to you. Just basically saying, I need $1, something, $1. What is it? How does it go? Why can't we? Dollars is what I need, exactly. Something like that. Anyways, Manu and I are not the two most musical people, but it was quite funny listening to Ralph sing that the other day. But no, I actually don't know what type of music a buffalo would listen to. There's a car, lost a wheel, standing on a jack. Luckily there's no people there, so they've been rescued. Okay, we're going to go down towards the Mara Bridge. Perhaps we'll stop at the Hammerkorp Nest and see what's happening over there before we go any further. Let's go across to Ralph now and see how good his singing talents really are.
I need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey, that's the song, Taylor. Come on. But they probably sang that before you were born. No, I'm not that old, but... So, we spotted some banded mongoose on our way over towards where the lion is. And like I said, we always look for things on our way to something else. And this is quite a big band of mongoose. It's a band of banded mongoose. How's that? Very gregarious. And these individuals, they all work together and they make for a very good team. Everybody always communicating. When they're nearby, you can hear them going crook, crook, crook. Now, Ben, you're wondering if this is the same animals that were in the Lion King, Timon? No, these are slightly different. They're in the same family and they have very similar habits, but those are your surrogates. And these are the banded mongoose. So slightly different, and you also find them in slightly different areas. Now, these seem to, there one stands up. The surrogates are more predominantly in the Kalahari or more in arid conditions, whereas the banded mongoose a little bit more water dependent, so slightly more areas that have higher rainfall and not as adept as surviving in desert conditions as the surrogates are. But the surrogates is what you got in the Lion King, and that was Timon. We're seeing lots of Pumbaa around here as well. Warthogs running all over the place, and it seems to be a favorite food for our lions. Speaking of which, I think, Archie, let's head for the lion. So we've stopped now for elephant and banded mongoose along the way to our lion, and we generally do that because once you've spotted a lion, especially in the middle of the day, chances are he's not going to be going very far. So you can bet your bottom dollar on the fact that he's going to be there. Make your way slowly in that direction and see what you find along the way. And I've had some of my most amazing bush encounters on the way to see something else, and that's something else more often than not being lions. So that's a good way to plan your game drive, I would say. Look at this. We've got a buffalo bull here lying flat in the mud. I don't want to disturb him if I can help it. There we have already. Shame. Sorry, buddy. Shame. That was a real mud wallow there. You can hear him slipping and sliding now in the mud. Sorry, big boy. I didn't mean to. And obviously on foot, this is when they would be extremely dangerous. When you've surprised them like that, you've woken them up and they are scared, and they can be then aggressive scared. So Taylor answered a question earlier about what kind of music buffalo would listen to. Well, I definitely think that it would have to be Bob Marley, I would say. When they're lying in the mud, it would definitely be Bob Marley, but once they get surprised or they get woken up, I would say that it very quickly goes from Bob Marley to something like AC/DC or Guns N' Roses, or I believe Taylor said death metal, yeah, something like that, but only once they've woken up. I say while they're lying in the mud, and ruminating. I definitely think that it would be a more chilled out reggae style Buffalo Soldier. Alright. So, you see what I mean? That's another thing. Buffalo wallowing in the mud. And we're heading just towards the forest line, and we're going to follow that. That line is off in the distance over there. Now, CNAC, you're wondering what are the defensive mechanisms the mongoose have against lions? Well, their biggest defense mechanism, and I was starting to touch on it a little bit earlier, is their very alertness. They are very, very alert. They've got lots of eyes and ears. There's always somebody standing up watching guard for the rest of them, and they continuously communicate. When there's nothing happening, there's constantly a gruk, gruk, gruk. It's a very tranquil, soft little squeak. But if there then is something or danger that is in their area, you can hear the different alarm calls, and it's normally a high-pitched squeal, like a tree, tree, tree. But when they give it, it's either for danger that's on the ground or danger that's in the air, because remember, the predatory birds will also go for them. So you can immediately see from the alarm call given which way that they look, and they all know immediately once the call is given where the danger is coming from, and they normally rush for cover, which is invariably their den site, or they can have sometimes alternative safety zones. So it all depends on who spots the danger, and then he will give off the little squeal, and then they'll normally run for cover. So they don't have any particular physical means of defense except for their very sharp teeth. But if a lion did get hold of a mongoose, it would be tickets. It would be finished. But their biggest form of defense is obviously evasion, and through lots of eyes and ears and being very alert. But mongoose are known to take on very big snakes. They attack from all angles. They're very fast, and they've got those very sharp teeth. And even something like a 4-meter black mamba can get killed and eaten by a group of mongoose like that, because they just attack from all sides. And normally when the snake is facing one individual, they come from behind, he turns for that one, and they go from behind. So the snake almost doesn't stand a chance. And with the strike, the mongoose are able to retract before they get bitten. So very interesting. Now I'm just looking at the way that this bull elephant is walking, and he is walking a little bit menacingly, as if he's in must. I don't see any wetness on his back legs, but he could still be coming into must or going out of must. He's come up the riverbed. I'll just hopefully slide past him without him causing too much trouble. He is on his way somewhere, obviously going to go and rejoin the herd. But when they're walking with a little bit of an aggressive style, and he's got quite a pace going to him, I might just let him cross in front of me before I go. There's no hurry. But he is on a beeline for that herd there. Now, Leah, you're wondering if I've had any aggressive encounters with bull elephants in must. Yes, Leah, I have. I've had many. I've actually lost count of how many times I've had that on foot and on a vehicle. So I've experienced it many, many times. And oh, he's having a big poo. And there we go. And obviously, even when they are in must, yes, they are aggressive, but there's no animal that is that you can't turn or change his mind. The the elephants I would say that I've found the most scary are the ones that have actually had quite a bit of human contact. And it's in areas where there is conflict and potential poaching of elephants. So it is where we've got the people coming into conflict with elephants, and I've experienced in particular in the northern part of the Kruger National Park, where it is open to Mozambique and Zimbabwe, and the elephants go over the border there and they do get shot at, and we're getting a lovely smell of that elephant poo, very fresh and nice. How's that, Archie? Just before dinner. And yes, so when they go across the border there is that real chance that they get shot at, and it has happened. And then when they come back across the border, which is the Limpopo River, and they see people, they're not distinguishing between those ones that shot at them and us that don't mean any harm. And they are very aggressive immediately upon sight of humans. So it can be quite scary there, especially when you see a bull elephant in must who has already got problems with people. You've got a double whammy. Okay, now I just want Archie to go in here, because we're just having a male that is just come into the group, and I'd just like to see a little bit of this sort of greeting ceremonies. Immediately one of the females, I think it was a female, came out to the side and greeted him, and he seems to have now greeted her, and it seems like he's not quite interested in that group. Maybe it was just a friendly hello. Now I'm off to see some other elephants nearby. Let me move a bit forward. These ellies are spraying a bit of water on themselves, I think. No, it's not water, it's just grass. They're all huddled together. There's a couple of little youngsters in there. Sorry, ladies. I'm just going to turn a little bit. I just don't want to disturb them, but they seem quite happy with us coming nearby. That was actually a young male that bull came and greeted. You see, they're throwing soil on themselves. So there's I hope you were able to hear that, everybody, because that was some lovely communication. That subsonic, and I tell you, there was a whole lot more going on there that we weren't able to hear. If we can hear them communicating, that means that there's a lot of communication going on, because they say up to about 80% is inaudible to the human ear. Nice to see them, and sometimes you see them resting their trunk on the ground. Can get rather heavy. He's stuck his trunk in a termite hole and blowing in it. A youngster discovering his surroundings. Francis from Israel, you're commenting that they're all protecting this little baby. Absolutely. It's probably all females, these. The little young bull now seems to have wanted to go and catch up with that bigger bull that came past. And these seem to be the females now, throwing dust on themselves, looking after this little youngster, constantly touching and reaffirming their bond. Always interesting to watch. He's having a bit of a dust bath. And so nice to be in such close proximity to them. Some of them have got a white substance leaking from their eyes. And we'll see now There we go. Archie can show it. And it seems to come at different times of the year. And Wendy, it seems that you've read my mind, and you're asking the same question. What's that whiteness in the eye? It seems to come at different times of the year, and I've posed this question to quite a few different guides, and nobody has a definitive answer. But what we do believe is that it has to do with nectar or pollen and the flowering plants. So whether it's grass or trees, we definitely believe that it's something to do with the area that they're moving through. Now, these elephants seem to be hanging in these marshes and not going anywhere else because there's so much food and water available that I think it's possibly to do with the flowering grasses at the moment. And I think it's getting in their eyes. I think it's getting in their eyes, and then it is obviously just creating that bit of excess mucus or whatever, and that obviously just helps to clear out the eye. As this youngster gets a little bit curious with us, but with them being little youngsters like that, and look, Archie, go to the baby, because there's quite a lovely little interaction there. The baby's now laid over on its side, and this little male has come and saying hello to us. The baby maybe even tired, going for a sleep, little snooze in the afternoon. And even baby elephants, they can be a little bit like baby humans as well. They do need to have their little cat naps and get their rest. So there will be the odd little snooze. And you see, when you are in close proximity with elephants, you just need to be very calm. And sometimes they can test you. They want to look for a response. They can flap their ears and give you a little charge. And especially with the younger ones, we have to also just act like a big bull elephant, very calm and almost just stand our ground, and in our posture or in our tone of our voices, just let him know that, yes, buddy, we know that you're there, but we're not going to let you push us around because we're a big bull elephant, and you don't do that to big bull elephants. And then they generally just calm down and continue with their business. But they will test you. They try and push their luck, as any youngsters do. Sometimes you need to give them a little bit of a wake up if they push the limits a little bit too much. But we also don't want to hang in an area if we are pushing our luck. But for the time being, we've just got a lovely close encounter here. We don't want the little baby elephant to come over too close to us because mommy will defend him. So we just don't want to pose any threat. You see now, I think what's happened is we're throwing quite a bit of shade here, and the little baby, quite liking it. Okay, big girls, hello, hello. We obviously just need to be a little bit careful with elephants because they are quite big animals, and there's always the potential that they can do something to you, but if we're not naughty to them, they shouldn't be naughty to us. Isn't that how it works, hey mommy? And curiosity is not a bad thing, but you don't want them to be touching vehicles and things like that. So we won't let them get into habits with us. And if we have to, we'll also just tell them that it's enough. But otherwise, we just enjoy being in their presence. And it's lovely to hear them communicating as well. And nice when they can do their communicating and everything when they are very close to us. It's such a privilege to be in such close quarters with a group of elephants, huh? And do that, please. Thanks, girl. Thank you. She was just going to touch the back of the vehicle with the trunk. everybody. So, as beautiful as this is, and as much as I'd love you to stay with me, let's head you over to Taylor, who I think has also got some elephants to show you as well.
We've got a little one who's now smelling the air, but we were just under a savage attack by this young elephant, and I think we could experience another charge. Oh, this is so terrifying. Said no one ever. Look at, oh, is it doing that with its trunk? That was incredible. I've never seen an elephant do that. Sorry, Manu. That was just really cool, the way that it was bobbing its, well, I don't even know how that was possible. The bottom end of its trunk was bending, or should I say the top half of its trunk, while it had the tip of its trunk in the air. That was quite cool. Well done. That was like the equivalent of a handstand, I reckon, for an elephant. But that was very sweet. Now it's settled down, though, which is quite nice. And they're moving off. We saw the same herd of elephants yesterday afternoon in almost exactly the same spot. And they weren't particularly happy with us. They seemed to be a bit more relaxed, or just not tolerating us and moving off completely. But yesterday, the one cow actually mock charged us and shook her head and trumpeted at us. So I wasn't going to stop here, but they seem to be a little bit better today. But they are moving off into the distance. It is always funny, hey, isn't it? When the little elephants try and act all big and strong. It's always quite nice to see that. And look at the Olololo escarpment has turned into the Blue Mountains now. Now, Guide Monkey, you're wondering if trunk swinging means anything. Yeah, most certainly. It just depends in what context it is used. If it's used with a shake of the head or a flapping of the ears, well, we've got to be careful, because it could just be cooling itself down and using its trunk to swat flies. But it can also indicate that they're unhappy with you. And not just the trunk swinging, even subtle movements like twisting of the tip of the trunk in your direction. That's an agitation sign, a very subtle one. Not a lot of people will pick up on that if you aren't aware that they do something like that, but that's a good way to tell if an elephant is still got you in the corner of its eye. So it does, most certainly. But then again, like I said, it can be for other different things. It could just be swinging around because it's walking quite quickly, or it's running. And that little elephant, I think it was doing a combination of things, of trying to swing it around, but then also smell the air, which it hadn't quite worked out exactly how to do that just yet. Bye, elephants. Sorry that you're so far away. I need to see either elephants swimming or elephants playing in the mud today. Now, H. Macy, you're wondering if the little elephants can do that sort of low rumbling, that like the adults do, or does that come with age? I've never heard a young elephant rumbling. You hear them trying to trumpet, which is hysterical. That's one thing when you learn how to trumpet. So yes, I'm most certain that it does come with age. They could also be communicating in frequencies already. They're too low for us to be able to pick up. But that rumble I've only heard from, well, sub-adults. Actually, even elephants that are a few years old, you don't often hear them making that sound. Just when they get a bit older. Like I said, they're mainly trumpeting at that age. It'll be quite interesting to find out. I don't actually know. Maybe Ralph knows exactly what age you'd start to hear them saying. Maybe they do it from the get-go and I've just never come across it. That's also another thing. I've just never heard it before from such a young elephant. So, I don't really know what to do. I see there's some cars towards Serena. I saw a few white vehicles or shiny vehicles down towards the Mara River, so I thought we would head on down that way and go and investigate and see what's happening down there. I don't know what's so exciting. Maybe Scar has made a return and the rest of the musketeers, perhaps they're going to be around this afternoon. Or maybe that male lion that we had yesterday will still be at his buffalo carcass. We'll go maybe pop past there and have a look. But the north and the east is very quiet at the moment. Now, Din from Pennsylvania, you're wondering what is my most interesting fact about my favorite animal. Okay. My favorite animals are elephants. Most interesting fact. I don't know. There's so many. Elephants are such fascinating creatures. I think the one thing that I really like is the various cooling mechanisms that elephants will use, and particularly the fact that they use their ears like a radiator in a car, essentially. I find that quite interesting. But I don't know. I could go, you know what I mean, we could go on and on and on and on and on and talk about different facts of elephants. And there's probably one that I find most fascinating, but sometimes when you put on the spot like that, things tend to disappear. If I think of a really interesting one though, like a mind-boggling one, then I shall share it with you. But we'll have to sort of see as we go along. Yeah, there's some cars down that end. I'm sure there's some, maybe the Paradise Pride is around. I think that's why all the cars are down at the river this afternoon. So we've got a little bit of a way to go, but we'll get there eventually. Okay, but we've got lots of things that are potentially en route, and hopefully some of them will pop out in the road or just sit up in the long grass. Ralph is still sitting with the elephants. I wonder if another family is going to come pop past and say hello.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, we're pretty much thinking now the reason these elephants have come so close to us is because we've got the best dust underneath the car. So I don't think it's anything menacingly whatsoever. I think they just actually want to get to the dust which we've parked on top of. But we've also noticed that the little baby that is hiding behind mommy over there seems to have lost its tail. Now I wonder if that's happened via some lions or what, I don't know. But there, as you saw him lay down, he does have a little injury and a lack of a tail. Not sure if that was docked by something sinister or if it was potentially born like that. But it seems like the wound isn't too bad and the baby's health looks fine, and mommy doesn't seem very aggressive. Normally a very easy sign to tell if a baby is in any form of distress is in mommy's behavior. She's just being quite persistent in the fact that she wants to get to this dust below the vehicle, but she's not being aggressive in any way whatsoever. She's being curious, but I won't allow her to put her trunk right into the vehicle because we don't want her getting habits like that. So if she had to, I might potentially just tap on the side of the car or something like that, but she's just after the dust and being curious. So lovely to be nice and close. And the little baby starting to drink a little bit. A guided monkey, you're wondering if that baby is sickly or weakened at all. It really doesn't seem so. So good question, because it would obviously be a concern. Although there wouldn't be real intervention here. The wildlife and nature is allowed to take its course. But the baby seems in full health. And some of the things that you notice when you're near elephants regularly is they are constantly passing wind. And that rumbling is not passing of wind, that is pure communication. I hope you could all hear that, because that's a very close proximity. It's not really possible to get much closer, and with that communication we have an almost instantaneous movement of this small group, all moving in the same direction. So it was maybe this female in front of us with the little baby, it seemed like the communication came from her, and maybe she was almost telling these young females, right, I think that's close enough to that big smelly green animal, I think you need to back off now and follow me. And it seems they have obeyed her command, because immediately they backed off from us and they moved in their direction. Scarlett, you're wondering if I get nervous being this close to elephants. Well, Scarlett, not in In that particular instance, no. It is purely down to me understanding their body language and their behavior. If they were showing a different or an aggressive style of body posture towards us, I potentially would have felt nervous and maybe have reacted slightly differently. But it's all down to watching how they are reacting towards us. And there's a lot of escape routes for them here. There's no reason for them to actually come near to us for any aggressive reason whatsoever. We're not blocking them, we're not cornering them, we're not chasing after them. So there's every reason for them to, if they don't like our smell or if they don't like the way we look, they can move away. And so in that kind of scenario, no, I'm not nervous at all. But if you are in a position where maybe you come around a corner and you're faced with a charging elephant immediately, or you are sitting watching something and out of the thicket comes a big bull elephant in must and he immediately starts having a go at you, yes, my heart rate does go up, and I would say that it never gets any easier because I think it probably, the realization of what elephants can do the longer you are in the bush it probably makes you respect them more and more the longer you are with them. So it's not really being scared of them, it's having a healthy respect and just respecting their space and expecting them to respect yours. So it's a mutual respect, and if we all maintain that, everybody is normally fine. Lajish, you're wondering if that baby elephant's tiny tail will grow back. I have my doubts. I think it possibly grow a small little stump there, but I think it has been docked now, and as what happens when you dock dogs' tails, it doesn't grow back at all. It sometimes grows a little stump, but I think he's going to be tailless for the rest of his life. But I tell you what, they're very adaptable, and I've seen animals with way worse injuries still doing very well, so I wouldn't worry too much about him. And he's got a very good mommy there who's going to be looking after him, and as you could see, she was helping him along all the time, so I wouldn't worry at all. Now, Mia, you're wondering if the injured baby, or the baby without a tail now, keeps going down because of the injuries. No, I don't believe so at all. I think it's actually just down to it being a little baby, and little babies need their rest. So you will often see baby elephants going down for a little snooze, very short snoozes, and then mommy will pick him up and off they go again. But I don't think there's much wrong with that baby at all. It doesn't have a tail anymore, but it won't affect its feeding or anything like that. The only thing that it does help with really is to chase flies. So he might just get a little bit more irritated by some of the parasites, but I think he'll be fine. He'll probably find a different way of dealing with that. Maybe he goes for a scratch on a tree more regularly than the rest, but it shouldn't hamper him whatsoever. Scarlett, a very interesting question there. How many hours a day do baby elephants need or take? I would have to say that they nap pretty much on and off all day, and the biggest part, they're not actually actively feeding like the rest of the elephants are once they've been weaned. So the little baby, all it has to do really is suckle from mom, so drink milk, play and sleep. It's pretty much like any little child, isn't it? That's pretty much what they do. And so I would say they're probably getting a good amount of hours per per day of sleep, and if they had to get around, I would say 8 to 10 hours, you know, they're still wild animals, so they do still spend, even as little babies, quite a lot of time on the foot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get a decent amount, such as 8 to 10 hours a day, because you often see them lying down and taking their little snooze. Right, I think I'm going to start up. We're getting closer to that lion that we spotted, but how could we drive past lovely things such as elephants? I am, however, going to drive past now because I don't want to get stuck in the situation where we can't drive off again. Okie dokes. Alright. Just give them a little bit of a wider berth. Okie dokes. Little guy. Just coming past slowly. Mommy, you're not going to let me go past, are you? Can I? Can I go past? Please? I know you want to have your water. Just let me go past. See? Thank you. You already know us. We're not new, are we? And I'm not new to the Mara either. You probably know me from here on, hey? And you're not going to leave your baby, so don't worry about charging us. See, Mommy? Stay with your baby, alright? Alright, so as we head along and still try to catch up with this lion that is not too far off from us now, let's go over to Taylor, who is also doing something very similar to what I am.
I feel like I've just been driving the last few days, barely seeing any animals. We're gonna have to maybe start spending some more time in the far south and the west. We will have some chances. We're still on our way to where we saw that male lion yesterday. I don't know if he's still going to be there. We've still got a bit of a way to go, unfortunately. He wasn't the closest animal to camp, but our animals that I was relying on, they've failed us today. How dare they? Very rude of them to take a holiday when we need them most. So we're just going to keep heading towards the 4-kilometer sign, and then we're going to go right, and hopefully that line will still be about. We're going to go over this next rise, but I can start to see the Serena Hill just popping up in the top distance, just down like over that side. You can see it just sticking up. It's so hard to see, but it is there, that darker shade of green. And so that's where Serena is, all the way down over there. That's where we're hoping to get to. Manu, I could really use some chocolate and vanilla, not vanilla, strawberry ice cream right now. I think we're going to cancel the show. Manu and I are going to go and have birthday ice cream at Serena. I wish we could take the camera off, and then we could take it in, and we could have ice cream with all of you. It would be quite nice, don't you think? Ah, it was so delicious that day. Now I'm craving it so badly. Just the strawberry ice cream. We have chocolate ice cream in camp, but it's not as good as the ice cream at Serena. I don't know what's in that stuff. So yeah, and then after that, then we'll go down towards the river. We'll go towards Serena. We promise we won't make a turn past Serena. And then we'll go down and start heading back down towards the river. It might be quite nice. Although the clouds have come over now, it's a bit cooler. Now, Jenny, you're wondering what is my spirit animal? I think it's a lion, just because of my hair and my feisty personality sometimes. I don't know. I think that, but whether it is or it isn't, I'm not so sure. Maybe you can all come up with something for me. What animal do you think would best be my spirit animal? Come on, let's get creative. I'm not feeling particularly creative today, but I feel like all of you watching may be able to help us out. So hashtag Safari Live, what you think my spirit animal is and what you think Ralph's spirit animal should be as well. It could be anything. Go on, have a little bit of fun, tease us. We love it. So yeah, sometimes we see lions up here. Just want to check carefully. No, nothing just yet. Jack, you're wondering if I've ever seen lemurs on safari. I'm shaking my head going, no, I don't think so. No, I have not seen any lemurs on safari. But I don't think I've been anywhere where there have been lemurs. So I've been to Zambia, I've obviously been here. I've been all over South Africa. Ooh, careful. I have not seen any lemurs on a safari. Where would I have to go? I'd love to go to Madagascar. That'd be very cool. I had a friend that worked up there and she absolutely loved it. She said it was magical. I'm sure there's plenty of places I could go and see lemurs. I want to go on safari all over the world essentially though, so I'll check it off slowly but surely each time I visit a country. I'll make sure that I go on a safari of sorts. I need to do a proper outback experience. I haven't done one of those. So that could be quite fun, I think. Next time I go, maybe I'll do that. Okay, here we go. Here's the 4 kilometer sign, and then we've got to go about 4 kilometers right before we get to the area where potentially this male lion's going to be. Dolphin? I believe some of you are saying my spirit animal's a dolphin. Why? Because I do this. I do this all the time. And then sometimes we do a jump. I normally do it on the side of the car and then Manu films it. That's the usual thing. Or instead of waving at people, I do this. I get strange looks from the folk in Kenya. Why a dolphin? Manu, could you think of why I'd be a dolphin? There we go, that sounds like a bit more like me. Sea devil, you said a Tasmanian devil. Yup. I think my parents would agree with that one. That seems a little bit more suited. Noisy creatures too, so it's about right. But I'd like to know why you all think, or some of you think, I'm a dolphin as my spirit animal. It's quite nice. Because I what? Oh, because I dazzle. Okay. Wendy, you said that it's a zebra because I dazzle you with facts. Thank you very much. That's very sweet of you. I've never been told that I've dazzled people before. I'm going to start blushing. Thanks, Wendy. That was very sweet of you. Manu, we're going the right way. I think we are. No, we're not. I think we've come from where we saw that lion, didn't we? Because this road, we didn't go up around this far. No, I think it was here. I'm now lost. Manu and I are both like confused as to where we were yesterday. We didn't carry on. Hey? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was those ones down there. And we didn't see anything. I think our lion is gone. And I think we already checked the spot. There was nothing there. I didn't see any vultures, anything. That is no good. I'm going to turn around quickly though. Whee! I don't like it when I have to use 2 hands to turn. I'm like one of those drivers that just likes to use it. I put my seat back. I can't go any further back. My car, I miss driving my car in the city. That's something I definitely miss doing. Power steering, seat back, music turned up. Hey Manu, that's how we roll. It's not really, it is actually. I play my music really loudly. It's probably not good, but I love music. Okay, we're gonna then change our plan, as soon as our male lion is not around anymore with his bloated buffalo carcass. So we'll head down to the river and hopefully spend some time with some hippos splashing about, or some lions. Ralph was edging closer and closer to a feline. Let's see how far he's still got to go.
Thanks, Taylor. It seems that either an elephant, which is quite possible, has chased our lion away, or they've moved off. Now we've gone past where we saw them. Now we're coming back to see if maybe they were just lying in the grass and we've just missed them. But there's enough elephants around for that first scenario to have played out, because I'm sure everybody knows and understands that elephants really don't like lions, and if they do come across them when they're walking around, they will chase them off, or at least have a very big commotion, and there's normally the lions end up running away. So it's possible that that's happened, but it's also possible that we've driven past these animals while they've been lying down in the long grass. We did see them from a far distance, so it's quite possible that now we've missed them, but we're in the area that we saw them. Well, we saw at least one. Now Jenny, you're wondering if I've gotten lost yet in the Mara. Well, it's quite difficult to get lost here, Jenny, because you've got the river on one side and you've got the escarpment on the other. So we pretty much working all the area in between the river and the escarpment. I have not known which road to take many times, but very clear landmarks here, so very difficult to actually get lost. A lot easier to get lost in Djuma, even though it's on a much smaller area. I found it more difficult on 1,000 hectares to find my way around than I have around here, as I say, because of those very clear and obvious landmarks that you have here, as opposed to just thick bush and reasonably flat in the Sabi sands in the greater Kruger area. There you need to sort of get up and look off into the distance and work out where the Drakensberg is in relation to you, but if there's no real koppies or small hills or little mountains within the area that you're working in the Lowveld and in the Kruger Park greater area, it can be quite difficult to find your way around, especially once it becomes a little bit overcast and you don't even know where the sun is, where it came up, where it went down. That's where I've been working on a game reserve in the Kruger area for more than 4 years, and when it was overcast and I went out for a walk, at one stage after about 2 hours we had been walking, I realized I didn't know where I was, and so we had to stop and rethink where we had actually gone and where we actually thought we were, and eventually through process of elimination and also through great discussion with a few different people that also knew or supposedly knew where they are, and we found our way back home. Now everybody's been answering the question, what is your spirit animal? Wow, I think Taylor said a lion. I would have to say, let me think about that one, and I'll tell you. I'm not just going to throw you a random animal. Let me think about that. The other day I was thinking that it would be something like a wild dog, because of their nomadic nature and the way they also like to look out for their family. So that's sort of, it does ring true with me. I do get itchy feet, but I also love teamwork and families and all of that. So maybe a wild dog. Now, I'm just trying to see. The guys in the back are all pointing at something, and I'm not quite sure what. What have you guys got?
That's these small bushes.
Yeah?
That's near me.
Okay. Cenac, you're saying that I'd be a honey badger. Well, good call there, Cenac. It does take a lot of... I'm not very easily scared, if I can say that. And... so that's not a bad one. I don't know if you can see them there, Archie, on the camera. It's not a very good shot, but let's just see if we can spot them. And that's one of the reasons why we drove past them. Now we've been quite lucky that we've got a couple of raised eyes in the back, and they've been able to pick out the lions. But I might have to reposition. What do you think, forward or back, Archie? We've got a leg, which is very often what you see with lions. We've got a little leg. Yeah. And we've got an elephant coming to approach us. There's some water here, so I'll just give him his space and let him have the water hole all to himself, because he's looking a little bit menacing. So I won't press the subject with this elephant, but we also do want to get a better view on these lions, even though they're very flat. I'll just move off a little bit and then we can watch. We'll have a slight view of the lions, and we'll also then have a little bit of a view of the elephant. And it might be interesting because if this elephant goes over towards those lions, it could get interesting. So let's see if you can see the elephant there, Archie. It was heading towards the lions, but it's turned around now. It's going a little bit off to the side, but he might wander on over towards them as he's feeding, and as soon as he sees them, that's going to be a rude awakening for those lions, because he will charge them. That's a guarantee. I've never seen an elephant, especially an elephant bull, not charge lions at any given opportunity. So ooh, hello, look at that. Just behind the elephant, he's now taken us in that line there, and Archie has spotted this male lion out the back. You see his concern as well. This elephant is now heading towards him. A nice big yawn there from that lion. He's probably thinking, here we go again, the elephants are going to chase us into the forest. He's probably also getting ready for that. So we'll just watch and see what happens. With these other lions lying up here, I wouldn't be surprised if that male lion is heading towards them. Although it looks like he might have laid down again. So I don't know if there's any barrier between that elephant and the lion. There might be a bit of a drainage line, but it doesn't seem so. And if the ground drops away, I wouldn't be able to see it here, so I don't know if there is any dead ground in between them. The elephant seems to have turned away from the lion now. Still heading in the direction of where we saw that random foot of a lion. Now there's been a question coming through, why do bull elephants chase lions? Well, because elephants absolutely detest lions. They obviously pose a threat to elephants' babies, and they are predators. So elephants, they will chase any predators away, whether it's hyena, lion, a leopard. And it's quite fascinating to watch how animated they get if they spot a group of lions. And it does seem like we might have this elephant prowling the area, and he might just come. And there we go. There's one lion getting chased up. The head of the elephant immediately being raised. We didn't even know that that lion was there. He was lying in the long grass. But the elephant told us, you saw how he raised his head. So important for us to keep watching what's going on here, because this elephant does mean business with these lions, and I think he might come across another one or two of them in front. So we just keep our eye on him, because it's always interesting. I think he's spotted another one or two of them, and they'll definitely be getting up shortly as well. So we're just keeping our eyes on this bull Ellie. Here he's turning a little bit. He'll always have a little go at these lions. See that? Doesn't like lions around at all. And the lions know it. So as soon as they see an elephant coming towards them with that raised head like that, and trunk out, tusks in the air, normally put their ears out too. Now Matt, you're wondering if the bull elephant is capable of killing a lion, or killing these lions. He's definitely capable of it, but the lions are too fast for him, so they generally just get chased off. But if they had to just lie there when the elephant chases up to them, there's the potential that he would flatten him. Now that male lion that the elephant chased away, he's already rolled down on his back and gone back to sleep. So it's not as if they're overly worried about elephants, because they know that they can outrun them. But I think this bull elephant has possibly seen another lion, or he's coming back for more, because he might be a bit irritated that these lions have maintained the area and not cleared out completely, and he might have another go here. Let's have a look. It's a bull elephant on a mission to get rid of the lions in the area. See, it's probably quite scary for them as well, when you've got these lions that you can't see and all of a sudden they show up in the grass. Jenny, you're wondering if this is Scarface's coalition? I didn't even look at any individual characteristics on that lion there. I was too worried about the actual interactive behavior between the two animals. So if I get a chance to look at them, I will try and identify who they are. It's possible that it's the Chitwa boys as well. We're not far from where they were, where we've seen them previously, and so it could be them, but it could also be the Scar coalition. We'd have to wait and see with one of these individuals or any one of them that we can actually check. So this elephant seems to have wandered through now and continued going. I'm just having a look over at the other lion, who seems to have gone flat. We can just see the tufts of his hair sticking above the grass. Now, Indiana James, you're wondering if this bull elephant is in must. It doesn't seem to be so, because, you know, the biggest sign is that they're very wet between the back legs from continuous leaking from the penis. And that's a clear-cut indication. They will also leak from the temporal gland, but there's been a fallacy for a number of years that when you see an elephant leaking from that gland behind the eye, that they're in must. It's not true, because they can leak from that gland in times when they're not in must, and in fact under any kind of stress. So that's not an indication. When they're in must, yes, it will also leak from that gland, but the giveaway is the very wetness between the back legs, and then it's the obvious stance and the way that the males move. So I'm going to try and get a little bit closer to these lions, and I don't think we're going to move from here just yet. So when you come back, you will be with me. Let's send you over to Taylor, who I think is sitting with a reptilian.
Yeah, we were. Sorry, Ralph, we played tricks on you there. We set you up to fail. We did have a big crocodile, and then Manu pointed out that there were some baboons just sitting up on the rocks above the Mara River. There's a little one going exploring. Maybe they're coming down for an afternoon drink. Well, that little one looks like it's going in for an afternoon suckle. But they're all just sitting up on the rocks, enjoying the tranquil sounds of the river trickling, and listening to the sounds of the hippos as they all afternoon long, having a good old scratch. Everything's quite placid this afternoon with a troop of baboons. Sometimes it can get a bit rowdy, and especially after that sighting I had the other day with Archie, with the males all chasing one another around. It was quite interesting. There's a few hippos popping up, but we will go past our favourite part, well, not ours, but my favourite part of hippos in the Mara, which hangs up a little bit further away from here. And then there is a crocodile that I want to show you, but I just need to go forward just a little bit. We were also looking for chameleons at one point, speaking of reptiles. There's a crocodile. It was quite funny as we were driving. I was like, oh, there's nothing here, because the baboons blended in with the rocks quite well. and then all I could see was the pink from the crocodile's mouth. But those are some serious teeth on this crocodilian. It's not a very big crocodile. I wonder if it's actually not a female, because it seems to be sort of like quite short and fat, not quite long. It's got quite a big head on it too, and it's quite wide. I suppose its tail is curled up around the back of its body, and that is a little bit deceiving. Now it's difficult to tell the difference between males and females. When they're together and there's a group of them, then you can pick out the biggest, which are typically the boys. Now, Jesse, you're wondering if this crocodile would ever eat something like those baboons. Oh, most certainly. Crocodiles don't discriminate against any kind of meal, whether it's a human, whether it's a baboon, whether it's a wildebeest, an Egyptian goose. They will take anything and everything. They'll even take lions, no problem. And that's what makes them so dangerous, and why they are the apex predator out here. Yes, crocodiles are above lions. They're right at the top for that exact reason. They will take anything. They really are the epitome of opportunistic feeders. But there's plenty more, and that's a small crocodile. What we're going to do is we're going to try find some of my old favorites that are along the stretch of the Mara River. Well, they're a little bit further up, but it's quite nice. It's actually really nice at the river. I don't know why there are no more animals around here. There's not a breath of wind. It's actually quite sheltered the way that it drops down slightly. A little bit of a crest and a couple of trees, all making for the most perfect windbreaker. There's Mr. and Mrs. Egyptian Goose, very quickly trying to run away from us, stopping and giving us a bit of a glare every now and then. They obviously live around here. Not a bad spot. Where are you guys nesting? Haven't seen any Egyptian goose nests since I've been here. But I suppose I also can't see on the top of the trees. Or maybe they're nesting in other places. And on they go. We did see some goslings though when we got out a few... When did we go there? Well, was I with Rebecca maybe? I think it was... Manu, did we go to Hippo Pools? Did we get out of the car once? No. Did we? No, it wasn't with you. Okay, it must have been even longer. Goodness, it feels like just the other day. It was when Rebecca was here. She hadn't been to Hippo Pools, so we took her down there. And then there were about 6 or 7 little goslings swimming around with the adults. And that was the first time I'd seen young Egyptian geese. My goodness, you just go to Chitwa Dam at Sabi, and the Sabi Sands, and they're everywhere. Okay, let's keep searching. Okay, this part we move away from the river, and we've got to go around again. Okay, let's go around. Just quickly checking. This is a spot. It's actually a good spot to find the musketeers and the Paradise Pride. They sometimes like to come and lay around here. And this was kind of where I was starting to see the cars gathering. I see a vehicle up ahead, but it looks like it's on the move. So now I'm just trying to work out, because all those vehicles that I did see have now disappeared, whereabouts they had stopped. And it is such a vast piece of land, and those lions blend in so well, not only to the long grass, but these rocky outcrops don't help at all. They could quite easily be here, but we're looking for lions not just on this side of the river, but also on the other side of the Mara River. So we've got quite a big area that we need to scan and keep checking. And because it has been hot, you know, they might have not woken up yet. They could just be laying underneath some of these little thickets, which is definitely a possibility. Cars looked like it was reversing. Maybe it was up a bit higher. It would make sense if it was actually a bit higher, but let's check this lookout point over here and see if there's anything lurking. Water looks fairly calm here. Actually a nice spot. I need to bring a lilo out here. Can you imagine floating around on a flamingo and a crocodile swims past? It could be interesting. Okay. No crocodiles. Where is everyone? Oh, there they are. On the banks. They've come right out of the water. Obviously, there's a couple that are still a little bit on the submerged side. There's 4 crocodiles for you though. All just resting up. Trying to get the last of the heat from the sun as it pokes its head through the clouds, and then also getting all that heat from the ground. that'll be warming up nicely. That'll be a nice spot. Notice how they like to sit in the spots where there's not a lot of grass, where they have direct contact with their skin and sort of the rocks and these sandy areas, because they do retain heat a lot better. And that's how they will keep nice and warm, especially for these chilly evenings that we've been having. Last night and the night before were horribly cold. Even right into the morning was quite chilly too. Ooh. Aaron, you're wondering when was the last time I saw a crocodile do a death roll? Probably when the migration was here. I saw crocodiles feasting upon some wildebeest, and they were rolling about. So that was, I don't know, maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, quite a while ago. I've actually only seen it twice since I've been here. Crocodiles doing death rolls. I haven't seen much of that behavior at all, but it is spectacular. And it wasn't really done by massive crocs either. It was like this, I'd say about the size of the one on the left-hand side. So not a very big croc. That's probably just shy of 2 meters, that one. Maybe not even quite 2 meters, maybe 1.5 meters. Again, these 4 crocs are not big. I don't think any of them are stretching over 3 meters. I think the biggest one there is probably the one maybe in the middle. And that's maybe 2.5 meters or so. Still big though, but not the dinosaur giants that we get along the Mara River. But we'll keep searching. There's still a long stretch of the Mara River that we can pop past and have a look at. And I'm going to head on back down that way. Ralph has found himself some more elephants.
Yep, it's been a totally fantastic afternoon. And this is the same group that was right next to us, and that female there is almost got a tusk configuration similar to that of Fang back in Djuma, with the one going out and the other one going almost straight down. It's quite interesting. If you see her turn to the side, you'll see what I mean. It's almost, I know Fang's is quite excessive, but it's quite similar. These elephants are moving towards the forest, and the bull that was chasing the lions around, he went into the forest, and I've just heard him trumpet a second ago, just before you crossed to us. And that, for me, would possibly be him coming across animals like leopard or, you know, and out here in the plain, it's they're way more comfortable with predators, and you see how they still react to predators. So when they see predators in a forest type situation, they'll be quite stressed out, because it's very close, and so they would react quite strongly towards that. And it was just one big trumpet, and I'm sure that whatever was around that elephant has now gotten out of his way. So folks, it seems these elephants have now moved off a little bit into the forest. These lions are still lying down. I'm not sure if Archie can see this one lion just in front of us here.